Joining us right now with more on the race for the White House, Frank Luntz, FIL Inc. pollster and political strategist. What did you make of this? What do you think is going on here? DeSantis desperately just needs to get back into the conversation, and Gavin Newsom is running for
whatever.
For whatever?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, last night was a food fight, was worldwide wrestling, whatever analogy you want to use. You used a very calm clip, because most of the time they just talked over each other, they just yelled at each other. And I like the fact that Sean Hannity had to experience what his colleague Chris Wallace went through when he tried to moderate a debate with Trump and Biden. It's absolutely impossible to imagine that the two candidates that the public doesn't want are going to be the nominees. But that's the situation we're facing. I'm looking at an independent candidacy more seriously now than ever before.
You yourself? I would vote for you. But...
Oh, I don't. Please.
Oh, you're looking at.
You're looking at the prospect.
Could be not you.
Okay.
Not you.
God help America.
So is it RFK you're looking at? Who are you looking at?
Joe Manchin.
You think Manchin's coming in?
I think he's coming in. Maybe the former Maryland governor, Larry Hogan. Maybe the former Utah governor. Actually, I've heard Romney's name mentioned, but I'm speaking of Huntsman.
Right.
You could even have the congresswoman from Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard.
Frank, we had Paul Ryan here yesterday, and just to push back a little on that, we asked him about that too. Joe Manchin potentially running. He said no labels will never do that because they are too concerned about what happens if they enter a third party into the race.
That is not true.
Okay.
I love Paul Ryan, but he's completely wrong. This is absolutely viable. It does not necessarily help or hurt Biden. Depends on who the candidates are. Joe Manchin takes as many votes away from Donald Trump as he does from Joe Biden because he's a conservative Democrat. And there are a lot of Democrats who are angry at him for standing up to Joe Biden, so they won't vote for him. And yet Manchin has the ability to attract Republican voters that even some independent Republicans would not support.
Ryan was pushing the idea that Nikki Haley is a plausible candidate for the Republican Party because of Americans for Progress, that the support that they got for prosperity. I'm sorry, Americans for Prosperity, that they would be able to get her on the ballot
as an independent.
Well, not as an independent, but that they would be able to make moves. Can the No Labels Party get someone on the ballot? If
No Labels is credible. They've already got ballot positions in about 10 states. By the end of this year, I'm told that they'll get to maybe a dozen. I've seen their polling. I've seen their focus groups. And not only is it viable, but there is a significant percentage, 60%, that right now are looking someone other than Trump and Biden.
Like, Frank, with Manchin, though, you heard, you know the expression, you can't please all the people all the time. So when he stood firm against any more spending, a lot of conservatives were watching him. It's like, this guy's great. He's got to switch parties. When he finally, and the Democrats were furious that he was holding up, that Biden's agenda couldn't go forward. And then when he finally, I don't know whether it was a really quick flip-flop, but he flip-flopped and went and did back it, and the IRA passed. And then all the conservatives that liked him were furious. So he totally made the Democrats mad on the way in, and then all the people that were starting to like him, he had nobody left after that, and he had 10% approval in West Virginia.
And yet my issue is, and I've been thinking about what to address on this show, why is Joe Biden running?
Why is Joe Biden running?
His support among young people is collapsing.
So you don't want to talk about Manchin. I was just talking about Manchin.
I realize that, but this is actually more significant. The reason why we're talking about Manchin is because Biden is so weak. And they're saying the Democrats are trying to kick all these independent candidacies off the ballot so they can't run.
Let me ask you a question. Turn the whole thing around. Let's say the Biden administration called you up and said, I want you to whisper in our ear on this side and say, tell us what is the message that we're supposed to deliver about the issue of age or the criticisms that you just made. If you were telling him how he should go about it, what would you be telling him?
And first thing I'd say is do not let Jeffrey Katzenberg back into the White House, because he is a great movie maker. He's very talented in Hollywood, and he's an idiot when it comes to politics. He says to Joe Biden, now you look up, he says to Joe Biden, lean into it. Emphasize your age because you got experience. No. Nobody. They watch Biden speak. They watch him walk. They watch how he behaves.
And this is when he's 81, not 86.
Exactly.
He will be 86.
And that's the exact point. So if I'm advising Biden, I'm going to say, don't talk about age. Focus on day one. Where were we on January 20th, 2021, and where are we today, and where are we headed? That's the best for him. And for Donald Trump.
But if you can't get, but look, I imagine the reason why Jeffrey Katzenberg, who, by the way, is not just a talented filmmaker, he's had a remarkable
He's had a career. But you got to know when to stop.
But at some point, you can't, if the elephant in the room is around age, to sort of pretend that you're younger than you are or that's not an issue, people are always going to ask that question. So you almost have to lean into it and say, I'm a wise man. I mean, look, I thought you were going to say that you could lean into the idea that that he and the vice president are more of a team, that you're buying into it.
That's a scary thing, Andrew.
You can't say that.
Andrew had Kamala Harris at his deal book, too. And that's the other elephant in the room that everyone talks about. The backup to Biden, if something were to happen, is Kamala Harris. And that's a frightening thought to most people.
To give you numbers behind it, she has the lowest approval rating since Dan Quayle, and he had the lowest approval rating for vice president since Aaron Burr.
Can I ask you a question about vice presidents? Do you believe that
1 out of 3?
Do you believe that when a voter, I actually asked the vice president about this, when a voter votes for a ticket, I don't know if you vote for a ticket, but if you're voting for the president, how much you have to affirmatively believe
usually not.
That you're voting for, that you believe that the vice president could also be an exceptional president?
It happened with John McCain because of his age. And it's absolutely going to happen to Joe Biden because of his age.
And who McCain picked, too.
And Sarah Palin, who was a brilliant pick when it happened and then turned bad as time went on.
It looked like a Hail Mary pass. It was a weird choice and almost out of desperation. I don't know if he needed to be desperate.
But she gave an amazing convention speech.
Right.
And then it was downhill from there. Because in the end, it's not just about style. It really is about substance.